and welcome to Madeleine at the Movies, the Golden Days film review segment, designed to make you feel a little more informed when it comes to choosing what to watch next. I'm Madeleine Swain. There are few surprises in Glenrothan, a family drama set in the Scottish Highlands, but that doesn't mean it's not worth a look. If it's a rainy afternoon, you've got nothing better to do, or you're fond of Brian Cox or Alan Cumming. Written by David Ashton and Jeff Murphy, the film marks the directorial debut of one of those stars, Brian Cox, while both he and Alan Cumming are also listed among the executive producers. The plot revolves around two brothers, long estranged, who reunite when the one who left, Donal, played by Cumming, begrudgingly returns to Scotland with his daughter and granddaughter to visit the family's whisky distillery. What follows is a lot of exposition, a lot of this is what happened when we were young and our father was to blame, and a lot of reparation and reconnection. Not just between the siblings, but also with the woman Donal left behind, Jess, who is now a pivotal figure in the distillery. If you can't see where all this is going from the outset, then maybe this is your first time in the cinema, but Shirley Anderson, who plays Jess, Cumming and Cox are all gifted actors and do what they can to elevate the material. Alexandra Shipp, as Donal's daughter, has the rather thankless role as the daughter who has to act as the bridge between her father and uncle, while Alexandra Wilkie plays the part of cute child and little more. Don't blame either actor here, though, this is all in the writing. There is a liberal use of uplifting music. Donal is a musician and club owner, and part of his rehabilitation journey back to being a decent human being is expedited through the power of shared music making. And, as with many movies set in Scotland, there's always the gorgeous scenery to hold the interest, even if it can't quite overcome the limitations of the screenplay. Glenrothan is rated M, runs for 97 minutes, and is screening in selected cinemas now. A somewhat less predictable film, but with equally arresting cinematography, is another debut, First Light, written and directed by Filipino-Australian filmmaker James J. Robinson. It premiered last year in the Bright Horizons section of the Melbourne International Film Festival and won the Black Magic Design Best Australian Director Award for Robinson. The film revolves around the experiences of a quiet, middle-aged nun called Yolanda, played by Ruby Ruiz, who lives in a rather dilapidated convent in the mountains of Luzon. Yolanda is the spiritual guide to a younger novitiate who is not sure of her religious calling. But then she has her own faith shaken by events at the building site for a local highway. A young man is involved in an accident, and it's Yolanda who is called to visit him and bless him in the hospital. This leads to questions of corruption and cover-ups and who is complicit in them. The power frequently fails in the convent, which is partly due to the age of the building. It also leaks terribly in the heavy monsoonal rains. But it also serves as a metaphor for the willful blindness of the church to immoral practices and the nuns' collective unwitting blindness to what is happening around them. The film is again beautifully shot, but very slow and almost meditative. There's a scene early on where Yolanda and the younger nun are walking by a river, and they're walking so slowly that it doesn't even look natural, rather that they're going at the pace of the camera on its dolly. It's almost as if Robinson has the framing and cinematography side of filmmaking down pat, but has yet to learn how to really direct actors. But then one of the characters remarks on the humidity and how that can particularly affect Yolanda, who is not a young woman and appears to be suffering from the heat. And so that languid pace becomes more understandable. It's a film where subtext does become main text sporadically, but a lot of things are also left unsaid. Ruiz is quietly moving in the lead role of Yolanda and holds the screen with grace and gravitas. First Light is rated M, runs for 112 minutes, and is screening in selected cinemas now. And from two rather gentle and quieter films to one that is anything but, Saccharine is the third feature from Natalie Erica James, after Relic and Apartment 7A. Born in the US, but raised in Melbourne, James is clearly drawn to horror and otherworldly, malevolent forces in her films. Relic was about 3 generations of women battling a manifestation of dementia, and Apartment 7A also had very creepy undercurrents, I believe. And Saccharine is, well, it's a lot. There's so much to pick through in this film, but the first thing is to say, A, don't go and see it if body horror is not to your taste, and B, don't go and see it on an empty stomach, or a very full one. Saccharine is all about body image, relationships with food, the current alarming and ever-increasing trend of weight loss pills, and about the vicious circles people, and particularly in this instance young women, can get into when they struggle with their weight. Hannah, played by Midori Francis, is a trainee doctor who is at the practicing on cadavers stage of her training and who has residual childhood trauma about her weight. The film eventually reveals the family issues behind this. When an old school friend offers her a pill that will magically make the weight fall off, she enters a hell of her own making and unleashes horrific dark forces that set her on a spiral worse than any she's previously experienced during a lifetime of gym, fad diets, binge eating, rinsing and repeating. And this is where the production design team go into overdrive, with designer Josephine Wagstaff, art director Alice Lanigan, and set director Alexandra McLeod-Gibson really letting rip. And when I tell you there are 13 people credited for makeup and prosthetics for the film, that will give you a clue as to what to expect. And the cinematography and editing give us long montages of all kinds of foodstuffs and then some being crammed into mouths in gory close-ups or splattered in other, quite frankly, revolting ways. The credit sequences alone deserve awards for inventiveness. Curiously, though, the least credible prosthetic is the simplest, the built-up jowls on Midori Francis at the beginning of the film, which scream, this is not really a hefty actor. She'll be slimming down dramatically as the film progresses. It's hard not to think of the substance when watching Saccharine. It's addressing similar themes and goes to similar gross-out lengths to explore those themes visually. But I'd suspect that it's doing it all of that on a smaller budget, although it is thought that the Demi Moore Margaret Qualley shocker from last year only cost around $18 million, which isn't a lot for an American film. In the end, perhaps there's just a little too much going on in Saccharine. Is it simply a warning that the only way to really lose weight is through sensible diet and exercise, and anyone offering you a quick fix is to be avoided? Hardly groundbreaking advice. Or does the presence of Daniel MacDonald as Hannah's best friend Josie, a larger woman clearly comfortable in her own skin, mean that being big is better anyway and everyone should just embrace that? James's dual heritage may be the reason that the film is one of those with nebulous geographical markers, the cast speaking with local accents, apart from Midori, who has an American one. Or it's simply been done that way to help the film find a market overseas, as with so many recent films shot locally and hoping for international sales. Either way, it's a little distracting, but once we get into the gape-inducing scenes of the humongous, naked and nefarious cadaver trying to squeeze the breath out of a living human, it's hard to focus on anything else. Saccharine is understandably rated MA, runs for 113 minutes, and opens in selected cinemas on Thursday the 9th of July. And that's all from me for this time. Remember that you can catch up with any missed reviews at the website, matm.com.au. Madeleine at the Movies was produced and edited by Blair Purvis. Stay safe and well, and thanks for listening.